The Empire deployed its mightiest fleet to Earth, but nothing came back. 2 years and 4 months after the first battle, the Caltharian Empire finally made its decision. Grand Admiral Kelvor stood before the Imperial Council on the capital world of Calth Prime, presenting his plan. He was one of the Empire's most decorated commanders, a strategist who had crushed rebellions on 20 worlds. "The investigation is complete," Kelvor announced. "Our conclusion is clear. Commander Thalos and his fleet were not destroyed by natural disaster or accident. They encountered hostile forces at the target world designated Earth. We have lost all scout ships sent to investigate. The system is heavily defended by unknown forces." The council members shifted in their seats. The loss of one fleet could be explained away as bad luck, but the loss of scout ships suggested something more dangerous. "What do you recommend?" asked the council leader, an ancient Caltharian who had served the Empire for 2 centuries. "Overwhelming force," Kelvor said without hesitation. "We send a fleet so large that no defense can stand against it. 2,000 warships, including 5 dreadnoughts. We reduce the planet to ash. We leave no survivors. We make an example that will remind the galaxy why the Empire is feared." The council debated for 3 hours. Some argued for caution. Others wanted revenge. In the end, they voted for Kelvor's plan. 2,000 ships would be assembled from across the Empire. They would travel to Earth and end this problem permanently. The order was given, and the largest invasion force in 50 years began to gather. On Earth, the moment the Caltharian fleet started assembling, listening posts picked up the increased military communications. Intelligence analysts worked around the clock to determine the fleet's size and composition. When the final numbers came in, there was silence in the command center. Captain Minho, now promoted to general, looked at the display showing 2,000 red dots. "So they decided to take us seriously," he said quietly. "Can we win against this?" asked Colonel Taehyung, who had been promoted after his success in the first battle. Minho considered the question carefully. "Not if we fight alone. Not if we fight defensively. We have built 600 ships in the past 2 years. Our ground defenses are stronger, but 2,000 ships is too many even for us. They would eventually overwhelm our shields and burn the planet. Then what do we do?" Lieutenant Yunji asked. She was still young, but 2 years of war planning had made her one of the best tactical officers on Earth. "We do what we have been preparing to do," Minho said. "We take the fight to them. We do not let them reach Earth. We meet them in deep space on our terms with our allies, and we show the galaxy that this war is not about Earth versus the Empire. This is about freedom versus tyranny." The plan that emerged was ambitious. Instead of waiting for the Caltharian fleet to reach Earth, humanity would strike first. They would hit the fleet while it was still gathering, before it could organize and move as one coordinated force, and they would not do it alone. Captain Ji-hoon had spent 2 years working with the Norim and 7 other allied species. Together, they had built a combined fleet of nearly 400 ships. These were not warships by Caltharian standards. They were smaller, faster vessels built for hit-and-run attacks. Each ship was crewed by a mix of species, each bringing their own knowledge and skills. Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, now serving as the flagship of what they called the Alliance Fleet. Around him were representatives from 8 different species, all wearing the same uniform, all working toward the same goal. His first officer was Mela, the Norim elder who had first made contact with humanity. She had proven to be a gifted strategist, seeing patterns that humans missed. "The Caltharian fleet is gathering at Nexus Station," Mela reported. "They are still loading supplies and waiting for ships from distant sectors. Current count, 1,400 warships. Intelligence says the remaining 600 will arrive within the next 2 weeks. Then we hit them now before they are ready," Ji-hoon said. "Send the word to all Alliance ships." "We jump to Nexus in 3 hours. Remember the plan? Fast strikes, multiple targets, maximum confusion. We are not trying to destroy them all. We are trying to slow them down and make them afraid." 3 hours later, 400 Alliance ships emerged from hyperspace around Nexus Station. The Caltharians were caught completely by surprise. Their ships were docked for repairs and resupply. Their crews were on leave. Their weapons were not ready. In the crucial first minutes of battle, the Alliance had total advantage. Ji-hoon's ship led the first wave, targeting the station's communication arrays. If the Caltharians could not coordinate, they could not fight effectively. Missiles and railgun fire tore through the arrays in seconds. Other Alliance ships attacked fuel depots, supply ships, docked warships. The goal was not to stand and fight, but to cause as much damage as possible and then retreat before the Caltherians could organize a response. Grand Admiral Kelvor was on Nexus Station when the attack began. He ran to the command center in time to see Alliance ships swarming through his fleet like angry insects. "Return fire," he ordered. "Get our ships online. Pursue them." But it was too late. The Alliance ships had already done their damage. 300 Caltherian vessels were destroyed or disabled before they could even leave dock. Supply depots burned. The station itself was damaged. And then, as quickly as they had appeared, the Alliance ships vanished back into hyperspace. Kelvor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. What were those ships? Where did they come from? His intelligence officer worked frantically at her station. "We are detecting multiple species, Norim, Trask, Velian, and others. And leading them. Sir, we are detecting humans. The species from Earth is commanding this fleet." "Impossible," Kelvor said. "Earth was barely capable of spaceflight. How can they have allies? How can they strike at our core territory?" But the impossible had happened. Over the next 3 months, the pattern repeated. Whenever the Caltherians tried to gather their invasion fleet, Alliance ships would appear and strike. They hit supply convoys. They destroyed shipyards. They freed prisoners who then joined the Alliance cause. They spread propaganda to conquered worlds, showing footage of Caltherian defeats. The empire that had ruled through fear and invincibility suddenly looked vulnerable. On dozens of worlds, subject species began to whisper about resistance. Some began to act. Rebellion started on 3 planets. The Caltherians had to divert ships to maintain control, ships they needed for the Earth invasion. Kelvor found himself fighting a war on multiple fronts. He had started with orders to destroy one primitive planet. Now he was trying to hold together an empire that was starting to crack. "How many ships do we need to keep order?" he asked his staff. 400, sir. Maybe more. The rebellions are spreading. If we pull forces from garrison duty, we risk losing entire sectors." Kelvor made a decision. "Forget the perfect fleet. We attack Earth now with what we have. Gather every ship that can fight. We will have numbers if nothing else, and we end this before it spreads further." 6 months after the first Alliance raid, the Caltherian invasion force finally approached Earth. They had 1,200 ships, still a massive force. But they were tired from constant harassment. Their supplies were limited. Their crews were nervous, having heard stories about the humans and their allies. This was not the confident fleet that had left Calth Prime. On Earth, General Minho watched them come. "Here we go. Everything we have built, everything we have planned, comes down to this. Signal all defenses, signal the Alliance, this is it. This is where we make our stand." The final battle began not in Earth's orbit but halfway across the solar system. Alliance ships emerged from hiding spots in asteroid fields and behind planetary moons. Human ships rose from secret bases on Mars and the lunar surface. Together, nearly 800 vessels faced the incoming Caltherian fleet. It was the largest space battle in the galaxy's recorded history. Ships died by the dozens, by the hundreds. The void filled with fire and debris. But something became clear within the first hour. The Caltherians were not fighting with the confidence of conquerors. They were fighting like soldiers who knew they might lose. Admiral Deho commanded Earth's fleet from the rebuilt Inchin. He watched the battle unfold with the calm of someone who had prepared for this moment for years. "They are breaking formation," he reported to Minho. "The discipline is not there. They are afraid." "Good," Minho said. "Use that fear. Show them they were right to be afraid." In the end, it was not superior technology that won the battle. It was not greater numbers. It was the simple fact that one side was fighting for survival and freedom, while the other was fighting for an empire they no longer believed was invincible. Grand Admiral Kelvor watched his fleet fall apart around him. He tried to rally them to restore order, but it was hopeless. When his flagship shields failed and human missiles tore through the hull, his last thought was that the empire had made a terrible mistake. They had dismissed these humans as primitives. They had thought conquest would be easy. They had been wrong about everything. The Empire deployed its mightiest fleet to Earth, but nothing came back. 3 months after the battle, life on Earth had changed completely. The world that had been divided by borders and conflicts now worked as one. The secret was out. Everyone knew about the alien invasion, about the victory, about the larger war that was coming. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. Research facilities that studied medicine now studied alien technology. The entire planet had become a fortress. In Geneva, representatives from every nation met in what was now called the United Earth Council. There were no more arguments about territories or resources. There was only one question that mattered. How do we survive what comes next? President Borum of the Council addressed the assembly. She had been a diplomat before the invasion, skilled at finding compromise between competing interests. Now she led a united humanity with a single goal. "We have analyzed the wreckage of the Caltherian fleet," she began. "Our scientists have learned much. Some of it is encouraging, most of it is terrifying." She activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Caltherian territory. There were thousands of them. The Empire controls approximately 4,000 star systems. They have a standing military of over 50 million warships. The fleet they sent to Earth represented less than 1% of their total forces. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone had known the Empire was large, but seeing the numbers made it real. They had won one battle against impossible odds, but how could they win a war against such power? However, Borum continued, we also learned something important. The Empire is stretched thin. They are fighting rebellions on 7 fronts. They have enemies more powerful than us who occupy their attention. They rule through fear and overwhelming force, but they are not invincible. They make mistakes. They are arrogant, and now they have lost contact with an entire fleet without explanation. She changed the display to show communications intercepts. Our listening posts have picked up Caltherian transmissions. They are confused. They sent 3 scout ships to investigate what happened to their fleet. Those ships never made it close enough to see anything. Our perimeter defense destroyed them before they could gather information. Now the Empire is debating what to do. Some want to send another fleet immediately. Others want to investigate more carefully. We estimate we have between 1 and 3 years before they make a decision and act on it. Minister Junho from the Military Council stood. What can we accomplish in 3 years? Even working at maximum capacity, we can only build perhaps 500 capital ships. That is nothing compared to what they can send. That is why we are not going to fight them the same way, Borum said. She smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. We are going to do what humans have always done when facing a stronger enemy. We are going to change the rules of the game. The plan that emerged from the council meetings was bold and desperate. Humanity would not wait for the Empire to come to them. They would take the fight into Caltherian territory. They would use their speed and stealth to strike at targets the Empire thought were safe. They would make alliances with rebel factions. They would use every trick, every deception, every unconventional tactic they could imagine. And they would start by making first contact with other species in ways the Caltherians never would. Captain Jihoon commanded the stealth ship Wanderer, one of 12 vessels designed specifically for deep space reconnaissance. His mission was to travel to the nearest non-Caltherian inhabited system and make contact with whoever lived there. It was dangerous. The aliens might be hostile. They might be Caltherian allies, but it was a risk humanity had to take. The journey took 6 weeks using the faster-than-light drive humans had built from salvaged alien technology. When the Wanderer emerged near a planet the Caltherians called Varix 7, Jihoon studied it carefully through long-range sensors. The planet was inhabited by a species called the Norim. According to captured Caltherian databases, the Norim were a subject race, conquered 300 years ago. They provided agricultural products to the Empire and paid heavy taxes in exchange for protection. "Take us closer," Jihoon ordered his pilot. "But stay in stealth mode. Let us see what kind of defenses they have." As they approached, they detected Caltherian patrol ships in orbit. Only 2, both smaller vessels. The planet itself showed signs of a civilization forced into servitude. Cities existed, but they were plain and utilitarian. There were vast farms, but few signs of advanced industry. This was a world that had been broken and rebuilt only to serve others. Jihoon made a decision that would have been impossible for a Caltherian commander. Instead of demanding or threatening, he would offer help. "Prepare a communication package," he said to his crew. "We are going to tell the Norim who we are, what we did to the Caltherian fleet, and ask if they want to be free." His communications officer, Suman, looked worried. "Sir, They might report us to the Caltherians. They might, Jehun agreed. But I do not think they will. The Empire rules through fear. Let us show them something different. Let us show them hope. The message was sent on frequencies the Norim used, but the Caltherians did not monitor. It was simple and direct. People of Varric 7, we are humans from the planet Earth. The Caltherian Empire sent a fleet to conquer our world. We destroyed them completely. If you wish to be free, we can help. Reply on this frequency if you want to talk. If you do not reply, we will leave and never contact you again. The choice is yours. For 3 days, there was no response. Jehun waited patiently, keeping his ship hidden. He was about to leave when finally a message came back. It was audio only, and the voice sounded old and tired, but there was something else in it too. Something that had been missing for 3 centuries. Hope. Human ship, we received your message. We wish to talk, but not here where the Caltherians can see. There is a moon in our system, uninhabited, no sensors. Can you meet us there? 2 days later, Jehun stood in the cargo bay of his ship, facing 3 Norim delegates. They were shorter than humans, covered in fur that changed colors with their emotions, and had eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. They looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and wonder. The eldest Norim, who gave her name as Mela, spoke first. You truly destroyed an entire Caltherian fleet? Jehun showed her recorded footage from the battle. The Norim watched in silence as 300 warships were torn apart by human weapons. When it ended, Mela's fur had changed from gray to bright orange, which Jehun's translator indicated meant intense emotion. For 300 years, we believed the Empire was invincible, Mela whispered. They took our weapons, our defenses, our pride. They made us think resistance was impossible. But you are a young species barely in space, and you defeated them. We had warning, Jehun explained. We had time to prepare. And we had something else. We had determination not to be slaves. Another Norim, younger and with darker fur, leaned forward. Why come to us? What do you want from Varric 7? Allies, Jehun said simply. The Empire will come for Earth again. When they do, they will come with everything they have. We cannot fight them alone. We need friends. We need others who hate the Empire as much as we do. We are offering technology, weapons, knowledge. In return, we ask that you fight with us when the time comes. Mela and the other Norim spoke quietly among themselves in their own language. Finally, Mela turned back to Jehun. Your offer is generous, but you must understand we are not warriors anymore. The Empire has bred the fight out of us over generations. Our young do not even remember what freedom means. How can we fight? Jehun smiled. The same way we did, one step at a time. We will teach you. We will train you. We will help you rebuild what the Empire destroyed. But the first step has to be yours. You have to decide that freedom is worth the risk. The Norim delegation returned to their planet. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then, in the dark hours of a Varric 7 night, something remarkable occurred. The 2 Caltherian patrol ships in orbit exploded simultaneously, destroyed by hidden weapons that the Norim had kept secret for centuries. The Caltherians had thought they had disarmed their conquered subjects completely. They were wrong. A message came to the Wanderer. Human friends, we have made our choice. We are ready to fight. Teach us how. Back on Earth, similar missions were reporting success. 12 different species had been contacted. 8 had agreed to join a secret alliance against the Empire. Not all of them could fight directly, but they could provide information, resources, sanctuary. They could spread word to other conquered species that the Empire was not invincible. A rebellion was growing in the shadows, and humanity stood at its center. The species that the Caltherians had dismissed as primitive, as easy prey, was becoming the spark that would ignite a fire across the galaxy. In the council chambers, President Borum received the reports with satisfaction. We have 1 year left before the Empire likely sends another fleet. But now we will not face them alone. We are building a network of allies. We are planting the seeds of revolution on dozens of worlds. When the Caltherians come to Earth again, they will find more than just one defiant planet. They will find the beginning of their end. The Empire deployed its mightiest fleet to Earth, but nothing came back. The surviving Caltherian ships scattered across Earth's orbit, their formations broken, their command structure destroyed. Without Commander Thalos and the Eternal Flame, panic spread through the fleet. Ship captains made their own decisions, and most of those decisions involved running away as fast as possible. Captain Relkos commanded the destroyer Void Talon. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, but he had never seen anything like this. His ship had lost half its crew, its shields were failing, and enemy fighters were everywhere. He did what any rational commander would do. He ordered his navigator to plot a course away from Earth at maximum speed. "We need to reach the jump point," Relkos said. "Once we are far enough from this cursed planet's gravity, we can jump to hyperspace. The Empire must know what happened here." His navigator worked quickly. "Jump point calculated. 6 hours at maximum speed, make it 4. Divert all power from weapons to engines. We are running, not fighting." The Void Talon accelerated away from Earth, along with 47 other ships that had the same idea. They thought they were safe. They thought the hard part was over. They were wrong. In a control room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Yuna tracked every escaping ship. Her fingers danced across a holographic display, marking targets and calculating trajectories. "They are running," she reported to Captain Minho over the secure channel. 48 ships attempting to reach jump distance. "Activate the perimeter defense network," Minho replied. "Deploy the hunters," Yuna smiled. "With pleasure, sir. Activating now." For years, humanity had been building satellites. The Caltherians had seen these satellites and dismissed them as primitive communication devices and weather monitors. They were partly right. Most of the satellites were exactly what they appeared to be. But scattered among them were others, disguised to look identical to their harmless neighbors. These special satellites now activated. Their solar panels unfolded, but instead of collecting sunlight, they revealed weapons. Hidden engines fired, and the satellites began to move, repositioning themselves into a net around Earth. They were armed with missiles, railguns, and most deadly of all, intelligence. Each satellite could think, could calculate, could hunt. The Caltherian ships ran straight into this net. The satellites opened fire. Missiles launched from hundreds of positions, creating a web of death that the escaping ships could not avoid. The Void Talon sensors screamed warnings. Relkos watched in horror as 24 missiles converged on his position. "Point defense, shoot them down," he ordered. But his weapon systems were offline. He had diverted all power to engines. The missiles struck his shields and broke through. The Void Talon shook as explosions tore through its hull. Relkos reached for the emergency broadcast system, but the ship lost power before he could send a warning. The destroyer drifted dead in space. Not all the escaping ships died quickly. Some made it past the first wave of defense. They accelerated desperately toward the safety of deep space where they could finally jump away. They almost made it. Then the hunters arrived. The hunters were human ships, but not like the fighters that had attacked the main fleet. These were built for one purpose, to chase down fleeing enemies. They were small, fast, and equipped with engines that could accelerate faster than anything the Caltherians possessed. Lieutenant Minsu piloted the lead hunter, a sleek craft named Ghost Runner. "I have locks on 6 targets," his weapons officer Sora reported. "They are 4 hours from jump distance." "Then we have 4 hours to stop them," Minsu replied. "All hunters weapons free. Chase them down." The hunters accelerated to speeds that would have killed unprotected humans, but Minsu and his crew wore special suits filled with liquid that protected them from the crushing force. They were trained to endure pain, to push their bodies beyond normal limits. The Caltherians had better technology in many ways, but they had never developed this particular skill. They had never needed to. The hunters caught up to the fleeing ships within 2 hours. What followed was not a battle but an execution. The Caltherian vessels could not outrun them, could not outmaneuver them, could not fight back effectively while running at full speed. One by one, they were destroyed. Captain Nari commanded one of the few Caltherian ships that tried to fight back instead of run. Her vessel, the Silver Dawn, turned to face the pursuing human ships. "If we are going to die, we die with honor," she told her crew. "All weapons, fire everything we have." The Silver Dawn unleashed a barrage of energy weapons and missiles. For a moment, it seemed like a good strategy. 2 human hunters were destroyed, their shields overwhelmed by the concentrated fire. But there were dozens more hunters, and they did not hesitate. They swarmed the Silver Dawn from all directions, firing in perfect coordination. Nari's ship lasted less than a minute. As her vessel broke apart around her, her last thought was of her homeworld, and whether anyone would ever know what happened here. By the end of the day, Not a single Caltherian ship remained in Earth's solar system. The wreckage of 300 warships drifted in orbit or fell burning into the atmosphere. Thousands of bodies floated in the cold vacuum of space. The mightiest fleet the Caltherian Empire had sent in a decade was completely destroyed. In the command center, Captain Minho reviewed the final reports. "Casualties?" he asked. Lieutenant Yunji pulled up the numbers. 47 fighters lost, 6 hunter ships destroyed, 312 personnel killed, 841 wounded. Minho closed his eyes briefly. Each number represented a person, someone who had trained and prepared and given everything for this moment. "Make sure their families are notified personally." "They were heroes." "Yes, sir. And the alien casualties?" "Complete," Minho said quietly. "No survivors. We could not risk prisoners who might escape and warn the Empire." "What about the ground forces we captured?" Yunji asked. "There are several hundred aliens who surrendered when their ships were destroyed." "They will be detained humanely," Minho said. "We are not monsters, but they cannot leave Earth, not until we are ready to reveal ourselves to the galaxy." Admiral Deho entered the command center, his face tired but satisfied. "The cleanup is proceeding. We are collecting the wreckage before it falls on populated areas. The bigger pieces will be salvaged for study." "Good," Minho said. "And the most important question, did any of them get a message out?" Deho shook his head. "Communications were jammed from the moment they entered the system. We monitored all frequencies. Nothing got through. As far as the Caltherian Empire knows, their fleet is still traveling to Earth." Minho felt tension leave his shoulders. This was the critical part of the plan. The Caltherians had sent their fleet with instructions to report back after the conquest. When no report came, they would eventually send another fleet to investigate. But that would take time, possibly years, time that humanity desperately needed. "Then we proceed to Phase 3, Minho said. "We have won the first battle. Now we prepare for the war." Across Earth, in hidden facilities and underground cities, humanity continued its work. The victory had proven their weapons worked. Their tactics were sound. Their preparation was sufficient. But no one celebrated. They all knew this was just the beginning. Major Hyejin stood in the ruins of the valley where the first ground battle had occurred. Her teams were collecting Caltherian equipment and bodies for study. One young soldier approached her, his face troubled. "Ma'am," he said, "what happens when the Empire realizes their fleet is gone? They will send more, will they not?" Hyejin looked up at the sky where stars were beginning to appear in the dusk. Somewhere out there was an empire that ruled hundreds of worlds, commanded millions of ships, controlled more resources than Earth could imagine, and now that empire was humanity's enemy. "Yes," she said softly. "They will send more, many more, but by the time they arrive, we will be ready. We have time now. Time to build more ships, more weapons. Time to make allies among other species that hate the Empire. Time to prepare for the real war." The soldier looked uncertain. "Can we win against an entire empire?" Hyejin smiled, though her eyes were hard. "Do you know what we learned from our alien friends before they died?" "We learned that the Caltherian Empire has conquered many species, but every species they conquered fought the same way. Big ships, direct tactics, predictable strategies. They have never fought an enemy like us before. An enemy that adapts, that thinks differently, that refuses to fight fair." She picked up a piece of Caltherian armor from the ground, examining it. "We cannot match their numbers or their resources, but we do not need to. We just need to make the cost of conquering Earth too high. We need to make them bleed for every small victory. We need to make them fear us." The soldier nodded slowly, understanding dawning on his face. "We make them regret coming here." "Exactly," Hyejin said. "And the first step was today. We destroyed their fleet and left no survivors to tell the tale. Now the Empire will wonder. They will question. They will worry. Fear is a weapon, soldier, and today, we put fear in the hearts of an empire." The Empire deployed its mightiest fleet to Earth, but nothing came back. The Caltherian dropships broke through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Commander Thalos watched from the bridge of the Eternal Flame as his ground forces descended. If the humans had weapons in space, he would take the battle to the surface. His soldiers were trained, equipped with personal shields and plasma weapons. They had crushed resistance on dozens of worlds. The first wave landed in a valley between mountains, somewhere in the region the humans called Korea. 5,000 soldiers emerged from their ships, forming defensive positions immediately. Their sensors showed no enemy forces nearby. The area appeared empty except for trees and rocks. Ground Commander Vornis activated his communication link. Secure landing. No resistance detected. Beginning advance toward human population centers. He took 3 steps forward before the mountain opened fire. What Vornis thought was a mountain was actually a fortress. Hidden doors slid open, and from within came a storm of bullets. Not energy weapons, not plasma, but old-fashioned lead and steel, fired from weapons that roared like thunder. But these were not primitive weapons. They fired so fast that the air itself seemed to tear apart. The Caltherian shields flashed and failed. They were designed to stop energy blasts, not hundreds of solid projectiles hitting the same spot every second. Soldiers fell. Vornis dove behind his dropship, his mind trying to understand what was happening. "Return fire," he commanded, but his soldiers were already dying. The humans had done something the Caltherians never expected. They had taken ancient kinetic weapons and perfected them to levels that should be impossible. Each bullet was guided by tiny computers. Each gun was aimed by artificial intelligence. The humans did not miss. In the mountain fortress, Major Hyejan watched through cameras as the alien soldiers fell back. She spoke into her radio calmly, as if discussing the weather. "Target the dropships. Do not let them escape. Anti-armor missiles launched from hidden positions. They were not advanced alien technology. They were human-made weapons improved over years of secret development." They struck the dropship's engines, and one by one the alien craft exploded or crashed to the ground. Vornis realized the truth too late. His ground force was trapped. He activated his emergency beacon. "This is Ground Commander Vornis. We are under heavy attack. Request immediate extraction. Repeat, request immediate extraction." On the eternal flame, Thalos heard the plea. He looked at his tactical display. Already 7 more landing zones were reporting the same problem. His ground forces were being destroyed. His fleet was still taking losses from those impossible railguns that fired from the planet's surface. And now something new appeared on his sensors. Ships were rising from Earth. But they were not primitive spacecraft. They moved with purpose and speed, their designs clearly influenced by alien technology but built with human innovation. There were hundreds of them, ranging from small fighters to vessels nearly as large as Caltherian destroyers. "How?" Thalos whispered. "How do they have a space fleet?" He did not know that humanity had built these ships in underground facilities, hidden from orbital observation. He did not know that every satellite his empire had sent to observe Earth had been quietly destroyed and replaced with fakes that showed what the humans wanted them to see. He did not know that humanity had learned deception from studying the Caltherian Empire itself. Colonel Tae-hyung commanded the first squadron of human fighters. He had trained for this moment for 10 years. His fighter, named Phoenix Dawn, accelerated toward the alien fleet with 40 other vessels following him. "Remember your training," he said over the squadron channel. "They think big. They think in terms of massive ships and overwhelming firepower. We think small. We think fast. Show them why that's a mistake." The human fighters split into groups of 5, each targeting a different Caltherian vessel. They were tiny compared to the alien warships, no bigger than houses, but they were fast. Faster than anything the Caltherians had seen. They darted between enemy ships, avoiding the massive energy weapons that moved too slowly to track them. Tae-hyung's target was a Caltherian cruiser, a ship 300 times the size of his fighter. He flew straight at it, his weapons officer Ji-won locking onto specific points on the enemy hull. "Shields are weak at the engine ports," Ji-won said, just like the briefings predicted. "Confirmed," Tae-hyung replied. "All fighters target engine sections. Fire on my mark." They flew in perfect formation, a dance practiced 10,000 times in simulators. At the last possible moment, they fired. Their missiles were small but smart, programmed to exploit the exact weakness Ji-won had identified. They slipped through the Caltherian shields and struck the cruiser's engines. The massive ship shuddered. Its power flickered. Before it could recover, the second wave of fighters attacked, and then the third. The cruiser's engines exploded, and the ship began to drift, powerless. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human fighters swarmed Caltherian ships like insects attacking giants. The aliens tried to swat them away, but there were too many, moving too fast, hitting too precisely. For every human fighter destroyed, 2 more took its place. On Earth's surface, Captain Minho watched the battle unfold on dozens of screens. Every piece was moving according to plan. The ground defenses were holding. The fleet was performing better than expected, but he knew this was only the beginning. "Status on the Caltherian flagship?" he asked. Lieutenant Unji checked her displays. "The Eternal Flame is still operational, sir. It is pulling back from the planet. It appears to be trying to regroup the fleet." "Do not let it," Minho said. "Send the signal to Strike Force Sejong." In orbit on the dark side of the moon, Admiral Deho received the signal. His ship, the Incheon, was the largest vessel humanity had ever built. It had taken 8 years to construct in secret facilities on the lunar surface. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was a weapon, pure and simple, designed for one purpose: to kill ships much larger than itself. "All crew, prepare for main gun activation," Deho announced. His voice was steady, but inside his heart raced. This was the moment that would decide everything. "Target is the Caltherian flagship. We will have one shot. Make it count." The Incheon's main weapon was based on the same railgun technology that protected Earth, but scaled up to impossible sizes. It ran the entire length of the ship, nearly a kilometer long. It could fire a projectile at speeds that approached light itself. The weapon was so powerful that firing it would drain the Incheon's energy reserves completely. But one shot was all they needed. The Incheon emerged from behind the moon, its gun already charged. Commander Thalos saw it on his sensors and knew immediately what it was. "Evasive maneuvers!" he screamed, but the Eternal Flame was too large, too slow. The Incheon fired. The projectile crossed the distance between them in less than a second. The Eternal Flame's shields lit up, trying to stop it, but they might as well have been paper trying to stop a bullet. The projectile punched through the shield, through the armor, through the entire ship from bow to stern. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Eternal Flame broke apart. Its power core exploded, and the flagship of the Caltherian Empire died in fire and light. Thalos died not understanding how it had happened. He died thinking these were primitives who should have been easy to conquer. He died without knowing that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, but the ability to learn, adapt, and prepare. On Earth, Minho watched the flagship explode. He allowed himself a small smile. "Good shot, Admiral Deho. Ground forces begin cleanup operations. Fleet Command, prepare for Phase 2. "Phase 2, sir?" Yunji asked. Minho looked at his display, where the remaining Caltherian ships were now in full retreat, trying to escape Earth's orbit. "Yes," he said quietly. "Now we make sure none of them make it home. If the Empire learns what happened here, they will come back with everything they have. We cannot allow that. Today this fleet disappears completely. The battle for Earth had just begun. The Empire deployed its mightiest fleet to Earth, but nothing came back. The warship broke through the clouds above Seoul like a dark mountain falling from the sky." Commander Thalos stood on the bridge of the Eternal Flame, watching the primitive planet below with cold eyes. His 6 arms crossed over his chest in a gesture of absolute confidence. Behind him, 300 warships waited in formation, their weapons charged and ready. "This will be simple," Thalos said to his second officer. "These humans have barely left their own world. They fight each other with chemical explosives. They will surrender when they see our power." The second officer nodded, his scales gleaming under the bridge lights. "Shall we send the standard message, Commander?" "Yes. Tell them to submit or die." Down on Earth, in a military base hidden beneath the mountains, Captain Minho sat in front of a wall of screens. He was young for his position, only 32, but his eyes looked much older. He had been waiting for this day. They all had been waiting. "Sir, the translation is coming through now," said Lieutenant Yunji from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over her keyboard, and the alien message appeared on the main screen. "People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Caltherian Empire. Lay down your weapons. Surrender your governments. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply. Resist and you will be eliminated." Minho read the message twice. Then he reached for the red phone on his desk. It connected directly to the President and the Joint Chiefs of Command. "They are here," he said simply, "and they want us to surrender." Across the planet, similar conversations were happening. In underground bunkers, in mountain fortresses, in facilities hidden beneath the ocean, humanity prepared. But they did not prepare to surrender. They prepared to show the Caltherian Empire something it had never seen before. The humans had been visited before. 15 years ago, a small scout ship had landed in the Australian desert. The aliens inside were peaceful, curious explorers from a distant world. They stayed for 3 months studying Earth and its people. They shared stories of the galaxy, of the great empires that ruled the stars, of wars that had consumed entire solar systems. Then the Caltherians came to their world. Those peaceful explorers were wiped out in a single day, but before they died they sent one final message to Earth, a warning. They will come for you too. Prepare, hide your strength. Make them think you are weak. Humanity had listened. For 15 years they prepared. They took the technology left behind by their alien friends and built upon it. They dug deep into mountains and under oceans. They trained in secret. They built weapons that no one could see from space. And most importantly, they waited. Now the wait was over. Commander Thalos grew impatient after 12 hours. No response from the humans, his communication officer reported. They ignore our message. Then we will make them understand, Thalos said. He pointed at the blue planet below. Destroy one of their cities. A small one. Make it visible from space. They will learn to fear us. The Eternal Flame's main weapon began to charge. Energy gathered at the front of the massive ship, glowing brighter and brighter. The target was selected. A coastal city with 2 million inhabitants. The weapon fired. A beam of pure energy lanced down toward Earth, hot enough to melt steel, powerful enough to crack the planet's crust. It struck the atmosphere and nothing happened. The beam simply disappeared as if swallowed by invisible jaws. Thalos leaned forward in his command chair, his multiple eyes widening. What happened? Did we miss? No, Commander, the weapons officer said, his voice shaking. The beam was on target. It just stopped. Something blocked it. Impossible. Our weapons can destroy moons. Fire again. Full power. The weapon charged again, and again the beam shot down toward the planet. This time, before it could disappear, the sky above Earth lit up. A web of blue light appeared in the atmosphere, billions of tiny points connected by flowing energy. The beam hit this barrier and scattered into harmless light, painting the clouds in colors the Caltherians had never seen. On Earth, in the command center, Minho watched the defense grid activate. Shield status? He asked. Holding at 98%, Yunji reported. The alien weapon barely registered. Our grid can take 1,000 hits like that? Minho nodded. Good, now show them what we can do. Activate the surface cannons. Pattern Delta. Across Earth, the ground opened. From hidden silos came weapons that looked nothing like human technology. They were built from alien science and human innovation, a combination that made them unique in the galaxy. Long barrels emerged from mountains. Platforms rose from the ocean. Desert sands fell away to reveal launch systems. They all fired at once. Commander Thalos saw the planet's surface light up like a star going supernova. Thousands of projectiles shot upward, moving far faster than anything a primitive species should possess. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted, but it was too late. The projectiles were not missiles. They were not plasma bolts. They were solid rounds, each one the size of a car, moving at a fraction of the speed of light. They had been accelerated by magnetic rails that stretched for miles underground. When they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The first wave struck the outer formation of the Caltherian fleet. 73 ships exploded in the first 3 seconds. Their shields designed to stop energy weapons did nothing against solid matter moving so fast that physics itself became a weapon. Return fire, Thalos screamed. All ships. Return fire. The Caltherian fleet unleashed everything it had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic missiles all rained down on Earth. The planet's shield lit up like a blue sun, absorbing and deflecting the assault. The attack that should have burned a planet to ash did nothing more than make pretty lights in the sky. The second wave of human weapons launched. Then the third, the fourth. They came in waves, precisely timed, perfectly aimed. The Caltherian ships began to fall. Thalos could not understand what was happening. His fleet had conquered 40 worlds. They had never lost a battle. How could these primitives fight back? How could they have such weapons? He did not know that every calculation, every trajectory, every shot had been planned for 15 years. He did not know that humanity had studied every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine used by the Caltherian Empire. He did not know that the peaceful explorers who died had given Earth one final gift, knowledge, and knowledge, combined with human determination, was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. Commander, We have lost 147 ships, the tactical officer reported. We must retreat, no. Thalos slammed his fist on the armrest. We are the Caltherian Empire. We do not run from primitives. All ships advance. Get below their shield. Land ground forces! It was the last order Commander Thalos would ever give.